Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the RDX Sports Podcast. I'm Simon Head, and on this week's show, we've got a special interview with Mick Stanton, the former Cage Warriors middleweight champion, now middleweight contender in OKTAGON MMA. One fight into his tenure with OKTAGON, but he's about to kick off the Tipsport Gamechanger tournament, the middleweight tournament. €1 million up for grabs, €300,000 for the tournament winner. He takes on Milos Petrasek on February the 22nd at OKTAGON 67 in Trinic, Czech Republic. He's going to be walking into enemy territory, but knowing Mick, and from what he says on this interview, that's just how he likes it. We have a chat with Mick about his career leading from amateur boxing to discovering mixed martial arts and eventually becoming a champion, to how his life and his career has changed since he's joined OKTAGON MMA. And finally, we get a bit of a prediction for how we think he's going to fare against Petrasek, and a bit of a word from him on some of the other fighters involved in that Tipsport Gamechanger tournament. It's a good chat with the Height and Hammer, and you can check it out right here. All right, Mick, so we have a big fight coming up for you in Trinic in the Czech Republic. Tipsport Gamechanger tournament, €1 million up for grabs. I think €300,000 is the first prize. Just looking at your career as a whole and this new chapter that you've got right now, how excited are you for this chapter, given everything you've been through already in your career, and just how important is this fight to you?
It's exciting. It's the vision I always had. It's the dream I always had, and I've had to work years to get here. And from a young boy, I've been competing, fighting, and I always knew there was a reason I was doing it, and there was something good to come from it. I've always given it my all, but now I've got the chance to put the time aside to make fighting a full-time job, and the hours I've been putting into this camp is, I'm so excited. I've surprised myself. I've surprised my teammates and my coaches. My performance is amazing in the gym, and I'm excited to go and show the world what I can do.
So what's been the difference then, in terms of, you say you've been able to dedicate more time to this, and what's been the difference with this particular camp compared to prior fight camps that you've had in the past?
Well, to be honest, it's finances, it's money. I've never been paid well. I've fought on amazing shows. The cost of fight camp is, it costs me so much time, and time is money. I'm a full-time coach. I've got my own academy at Urban Kings, and it's a great place, but I've got a family. I've got 3 kids, a wife, and I went full-time training and coaching about 8 years ago. And we've been through tough times. It's been hard, and amazingly, my wife supported me, and we got through it, and everything's great. But now I can repay my family for the sacrifices and how much they backed me through this. In the past, I was working early in the morning, I was traveling to training, and then I was coming straight back, and then working, and then struggling I had to pay the bills first. But now it's like I wake up every morning, my day consists of me training, recovery, having a rest, and then training again. I've been able to, I specialize in me boxing, me wrestling, and me conditioning. And every day I've been able to do that. I wrestle hard every day, and I've been doing me bike and me bag and running every morning. I've never been able to give it this much, and my performance is just unbelievable. And I knew I've been an elite fighter in the past, as in like boxing for England and stuff, and that was when I was at my best, and I had that time to give it everything. Now I'm 38, I'm doing it again, and I can't explain how it's all come together. It's special.
Yeah, and how is it for like your mental health as well? I mean, like, as everybody has their own stresses with their jobs and whatever, but as a professional fighter, doing what you do is a stressful job on just in itself. But knowing that your career can sometimes hinge on a win or a loss in terms of how that affects your next payday, and having to juggle potentially other work alongside it. How much of a comfort is it knowing that you now have that more financial stability now than perhaps you did earlier in your career, and you can just focus on that one job, which is getting in the cage and performing on fight night?
I'll be honest, my life's really good. I've always worked hard. I've always made it, I've got a fantastic business. I'm blessed. The last 12 months, it's come together. It took me years from opening Urban Kings for it to make an impact. I opened an academy with no students. It's a hard thing to do. It's an amazing facility, and I've built it up through hard work, through not through advertising and trying to get people through the door, through results and making people win fights. And that's the hard way to do it. And that's the way I like to do it. I can't teach crap. I like to teach my fighters the way I've been taught and the way I've been brought up, and it's real. And it's the hardest way to do it. It's a fight academy. It's not a martial arts academy. So now it's coming together. So no matter what happens in this tournament, my life's good. And I'm not, even though I've got a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, money won't change my life. It will make it better, but I'm so happy. I've got everything I've ever wanted. I'm doing this to cement my legacy. I've still not shown the best of me. I haven't. I've got so much more to show. I've been through so many fight camps, and I've had to fight sick and injured, and I've won world titles doing that. And 99% of people would not even have got in that cage. But unfortunately, I had no choice because I needed that fight pace to go towards my wages. And I maybe shouldn't have fought the last Cage Warriors World title. If I would have lost the title, I had a staph infection and I was on antibiotics. And I have never gassed so bad in my life. It was like torture. I still thought I won the fight. I think I got robbed. I really do. But to go through a 5-round fight on antibiotics, I had a stitch in both lungs from the first round. It was like a nightmare. So going through all that and now everything going so smoothly, I had to fight. That was just before Christmas. I had no choice. I had to fight. I needed the purse. It wasn't even a massive amount of money. I just needed that so I can get my kids presents for Christmas. But now everything's going so smoothly. My business is running great. It's like everything's come together at the right time. And I'm just so blessed and happy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. In terms of when you made the move, when you decided to make the switch across and fight for Octagon, how much did you know about them when they got in touch with you, or did you reach out to them? How did that deal come into reality?
Well, my teammate Lee Chadwick was the first one to fight on Octagon, and we went over and I supported him and helped him train, and the show was just it's like nothing I've ever seen before. It's a packed stadium. The atmosphere is unbelievable. And from then, I knew I'd love to be on this. And then with me winning the world titles on Cage Warriors, then they were in negotiations when my contract was finished, and we jumped straight on it. Obviously, the pay is so much better, and that's always been the end goal, to get paid well for what I do, because it's been a hobby. Like I said, it's been an expensive hobby. It's a crazy thing, really. Having a professional fighter fighting the best fighters in Europe and the world as a hobby. It's a bit bonkers, isn't it? But to be able to, like I said, to be able to give it everything I've got now, it's exciting.
That's awesome. And obviously your MMA career, that came after you actually started the boxing career first. And I know not everybody knows about your boxing career, but that was, in your amateur days, you were, I think you were number one amateur in the UK at one point, right? So talk to us about that experience and what it was that led to you eventually moving away from boxing and then progressing into mixed martial arts, because that's an interesting backstory, I think.
Yeah, I started boxing as a young lad. I originally lived in Bootle, and I was, unfit, overweight. I was having problems in school. I had an hard time, and it was a rough place where I lived, brutal, and I just wanted to be able to fight. Got into a boxing gym, and loved it. And it wasn't even like boxing classes. There was just a punch bag and some weights, and I just go in and do my own session. 11-year-old boy just training himself, and this coach picked me up and started training me, learning me how to fight, and I was just hooked. Ended up moving to Heighton in the end, and then I started boxing for Kirby ABC. I went on to be national schoolboy champion, representing England. I went on an absolute tear. I was up there with some of the best boxers ever to come out the UK, and it got to a point in my career where I couldn't get any fights anymore as an amateur. I was only 16, 17, and I could only box for England. And then England funding got suspended. So I was out the England squad, the whole England squad, 17, 18-year-olds, couldn't get any fights for 12 months. And that was the sort of the end of my boxing career then. I never had a fight for 12 months, and you just, what's the point? Why am I doing this? Come out of boxing for a year or two, was enjoying my life, going out, drinking, and I just didn't like my life the way it was. And I tried to get back to it. I think I went up to like 18 stone, really overweight, unhappy. And I got back down fighting at 12 stone, 77 kilos. I think it was 75 kilos back then, actually, yeah. Had a few fights, went professional, and found out that the professional boxing game was tough. It was really just, you get a phone call and you fight next week, and unless you can sell a lot of tickets, it's all a big business. I understand that, and unfortunately I couldn't sell them tickets at that time. So the boxing career professional didn't work out, and I was always training. It kept me happy. I loved it. I become a professional boxing coach. I had a couple of my close friends who were England internationals, and I helped them in the boxing career. And then he ended, one of my friends who was doing MMA asked me to train him with boxing. I went to MMA gym. I think I was 25 at the time. And then seen what they did there, and that was how I got introduced to MMA. Started training, started wrestling, and obviously I boxed at a high level. I was always fit. I was straight in there. I think I had my first fight within 12 weeks of training. I had no wrestling or grappling. I just beat everyone up. Went through my amateur career. I had, obviously, people started taking me down. So I think my third fight, amateur fight, I fought at the time, Jar Herbert was the welterweight champion, #1 in the UK, and I fought him. I had a terrible weight cut. He just struggled terrible with me weight, up and down, yo-yoing. My lifestyle wasn't the best. I wasn't dedicated. I was just fighting for the sake of it. And then carried on training. It was win-loss, win-loss. And then I understood that boxing wasn't enough. I needed to learn how to wrestle, how to grapple. And then I was under Coach Axel Castle at the time, doing jiu-jitsu. And then my career took off again. I started wrestling and grappling and out-wrestling my opponents. Went professional. I had a couple of fights. I think I lost one on an injury. My knee went in my second and third fight. And then I stepped up to fight for the world title last minute. I was meant to fight a Cage Warriors, Mushas Aslani. He got pulled with an injury. And then I jumped up to middleweight and fought for the Cage Warriors world title on 24 hours notice, which is mad. But the same again, I needed payday. Promised me kids I'd do something in the summer oldies and go away with them. So I took the fight, lost, and then I understood that there was levels to wrestling and grappling, and I joined ASW from there. And I had a lot of bad habits, which I thought I was a good grappler at the time, because I was doing well. And I joined ASW and I got destroyed. I realised there's levels to the game. Yeah. And it took me years to get me bad habits out and mold myself. And Darren Morris, I think it took a couple of years to get recognition there as well, because so many people used to come through the door, but I knew I had to be there every day and train with these lads. And then Darren Morris started putting time into me and coaching me. I sort of earned his respect. we've seen so many lads come in the door and you train them up and you just leave, So he's you got to earn that respect from him, and you understand that, and it's right he did so. And he earned that respect, and Lee Chadwick held me along the way, pushed me very hard. He was, was one of the sparring partners. I played about with the weight classes, cutting down to a welterweight, middleweight, struggling to find my style. And then I put time into the wrestling, the grappling, and learned from Darren, and it all started coming together from then. And I went on a great tear, winning, and the rest is history.
And now, fully well-rounded mixed martial artist now. And if anything, from a lot of your more recent fights, you've tended to, obviously with the striking, that's a great weapon for you. But you've opened up that striking with the wrestling and with the the threat of the grappling on the mat. And how much, obviously having come from a boxing background, is that still your sort of first love in terms of your training, or have you sort of fallen in love with the grappling side of it now? Or what's your, when you go into the gym and okay, we're going to be doing, predominantly it's a wrestling day, or predominantly it's a boxing day. What's your favorite that you like to train? What's the one that really gets you out of bed in the morning?
Do you see the way, and everyone speaks of this, strikers and wrestlers? I'm a fighter, and I've got this style where I put it together, and what we do in the gym, we wrestle every day, and we put the gloves on, and then we fight. To me, it's fighting, and it's one style in itself, and I've created this style I've got, and people watch it and like, what's he doing? But it's something I've created that no one knows what we're doing. I enjoy tiring people out and beating them up. And that's both, isn't it? It's boxing and wrestling.
Yeah.
I set my takedowns up so good with me striking, because I've got that awareness of distance and strikes and footwork and feints, and it just goes together with me wrestling so good. And it's just, like I said, it's just created this style. To me, it's all in one. That's it. There's no, I wrestle every morning, we do sparring, and then of an evening I push myself on the bag. We don't do striking classes. I don't do any. My padman's my bag. Darren will say, work on this, work on this. That's all I do. In the past, I never used to have time to do bags every day, because obviously I was working so much. So twice a week I was lucky. So obviously my hands weren't as good. Now, every single day of this camp, I've been wrestling and I've been hitting that bag every day. So me sharpness and my hands just come back to me. It's like riding a bike. It's always there, but you've got to push yourself. You've got to do that bag work every day.
How long did it take you to adjust to the different ranges when it comes to your striking? Because obviously boxing, you're at close quarters most of the time. MMA, you can't stand in the pocket like that, because you're dealing with so many other weapons and so many other facets of the sport, right? So how long did it take you to get used to that difference in range and being more selective with your strikes? Because you don't get the opportunity to just stand there and offload 3 punches in a row before something else happens, right? So
it took years. It took a very long time. And then one day it just clicked. And it's only, I'd say, the last few years, it's me, it's perfect. I've got the confidence to stand in front of people and not take damage and hit them and take them down. And I'm talking like elite fighters. I can do that, and it's a gift. There's not many fights, I'll touch wood. There's not many fights I've been beat up, I've been hurt. I've took a few shots. And James Webb called me a great body shot in our fight. But the IQ of my MMA, he called me with that body shot, and I slid down the cage to play guard.
Yeah.
Then as he jumped on me, I got back up. So really, it's mixed martial arts, isn't it? If that was a boxing or a kickboxing fight and I would have got hit in the head, I would have been stuck on the cage on the ropes, and James Webb could have finished me off. So I've got to get a fantastic IQ of awareness and putting it all together. And like you said, with the range, with the boxing, yeah, it took a very long time. But I think the only way to get it is through sparring constantly, every week. You know, I think I've sparred every day the last 4 weeks. And because we, you know, box and wrestle, I do MMA sparring, I don't take any damage. So I'm practicing, I'm fighting every single day, and I'm not taking any big shots, damage. Where boxing, you couldn't spar every day boxing.
Yeah.
You'd be brain damaged.
Yeah. You mentioned that James Webb fight. I was K-side for that fight. That was an insane fight. It was just, you could see how much the body shot had hurt you and the way that you adjusted your game plan and basically almost let him punch himself out. And then you sort of just took him to school after
Crazy
that.
thing is, man. No, that was the game plan. You know, I'm very good at I'm a good nail. I'm good at taking punishments. I'm a good nail. I think you've got to become a good nail before you're a good hammer. And I've got the confidence to stand in front of people and take shots. But I understand that that's where I get my opening. That's where I can catch people. No, I've got a fantastic skill of hitting people on the button. Even though, in me fights, I like to tire them out. I've always got that in me. I've got hands.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get to see a bit more of that in the Tipsport Gamechanger coming up. You got this fight on the 22nd against Milos Petrasek. How much do you know about him? How much have you studied him? How much have you studied him? Do you study opponents or do you focus on yourself? Break down for us just how you go about. You get a name, you get a date, you sign the contract. How do you go about then prepping for that fight?
I become obsessed with them. I study them, watch them. I watch what they throw. I watch what they attack. I watch the main thing to me, what I look at fighters for, is how they react when you attack. Do they pull back? Do they slip? Do they counter? I'm not that. I know how to make them react and counter them then. I've been obsessed with them. I have, like I do every fighter. People who say you don't watch your opponents, that's a bit silly, really. This day and age, back in the day when I used to box, you used to get in the ring, you didn't even know you were fighting. You get in the ring and look at them. And we're blessed now. We've got all these fights to watch. He hasn't been very active the last few years, though. His last fight, I've gone back and watched his older fights, but his last fight he fought, Camille, who I fought on my first octagon debut, and it was a very sloppy, slow fight. That was at 88 kilos. Obviously, he's come down from 93. There's not much to take from that fight. He's big. Yes, he's dangerous. But I'm going to tire him out. I'm going to make him work for it. Can he keep my pace? I doubt it. With coming down that weight class, I've done big weight cuts and I know what it does to your gas tank. My whole game plan for this tournament is to make people gas, tire them out and beat them up. And I do believe I'll be successful next week at that. Yeah, he's dangerous. He's going to be very dangerous the first round, just like James Webb was. He's another big man. And I do believe with the training and the way I've been performing, I can take him apart. I'm excited to do it.
In terms of that debut fight in Octagon against Camille that you just referred to there, obviously you want to make a good first impression when you start with a new promotion, and you certainly did that. You got the finish in the third round, which sort of made a bit of a statement, really, that you're here in this middleweight division, and you're here to make a bit of a dent in it. How important was it that you didn't just win that fight, that you got it done inside the distance, and how did that help just set you up for being a part of this tournament moving forward? Or was the tournament already part of the deal when you moved across in the first place?
There was ways of the tournament, but obviously I had to perform. I had to earn my place in that tournament. I just knew what I had to do and just go out there and I think Camille had a very good he had a very good name for himself. None of the middleweights wanted to fight him in Octagon. He was meant to be a fantastic wrestler and grappler. I think he was a judoka and a wrestling grappling champion over in Poland, where he's from. They all declined him. Obviously, I like to take them big fights. Um, the game plan for every fight is to get that stoppage. And what I find with the bigger middleweights, they can't keep the pace. So he's come down from light heavyweight, like my next opponent, and his cardio was fantastic until after that first round, and he slowed down massively. And I knew if I kept pushing, because that's how we train in the gym every day, and that's what we spar in the gym every day. I like to I'll work my teammates and I'll work my opponents, and you can't do it in the gym, you can't do it in the cage. So that's what we train for, and we got it done.
And in terms of the tournament, it's the good thing about tournament MMA. There's no politics in tournament MMA, right? So all you need to do is just win in
Mm.
advance, and then you win. I think 3 in a row. You've won the tournament. You've got the bag at the end of it, right? So you haven't got to campaign for a shot, or you haven't got to try and build a body of work. You haven't got to go calling people out on social media and all that sort of stuff. It is just merit based. Win the fight, you get the next fight. So, but one of the interesting things, and I assume they're going to do this again with this one, is the first round of the tournament. All of the winners, they basically pulled them out of a hat, and then they got to place themselves in the bracket. And basically the fighters chose the matchups themselves. So you look at that tournament field, are there particular people in that tournament that you would really like to be in there with? Or are you just a case of, give me the next man up, I'll obsessively study them and make sure I know everything I need to know when I get in there, and then I'll just do the business on fight night? How do you approach this tournament in that regard? Is there any kind of tactic in terms of who you want to face next?
I do believe I can beat them all. I really do. I do believe my style. They're all strikers. There's a couple of, I think there's one or two grapplers. There's one on my card. I can't remember his name. But they're all predominantly strikers. And I don't think they can handle my style and my pressure and my technique. I do believe I've watched them all, I've studied them all, and I do believe I can beat them all. So whoever they want to give me, they give me. You give me one of the top seeds, take them out, sounds no problem. To win it, you've got to fight them, haven't you? So whoever they give me, and I'll just keep doing what I'm doing and run through them.
What do you make of the division's champion, Kerem Engazek? He won the belt against Patrick Kinselwin in Frankfurt. Did you see that fight? What did you make of his performance in that fight? And he's just recently fought as well.
Yeah, I was standby for that fight. They thought Camille was gonna what's his name? Engazek was gonna pull out. So I done a full camp for the world title fight. Went over, weighed in, and obviously they both weighed in, and I didn't fight. So I've studied him. His fight, I like this. I think the champion at the time, he put him on his back in the third or fourth round. He couldn't get up off his back. He's a kicker, and he throws a lot of kicks constantly. Kicks get you took down. You're on one leg. He's not a massive middleweight. He's going to have good cardio. I do believe I'd absolutely steamroll him, put him on his back and smash him to bits. I do believe it. Obviously he's a leg kicker. Every time he throws that leg kick, I'll just spear right through him, put him on his back, put him on that cage, take his back, smash him to bits. That's how I see it. I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
I've seen so many good strikers every day, and I do the same thing over and over again. And I don't think he'll be able to stop it.
And one striker who is in the tournament, and he's pretty much a pure striker, but there aren't too many like him just because of his wingspan, is Matty Penhas, who I think he's got like an 83-inch reach, which for a middleweight is absolutely insane. Like John Jones is 84-inch reach. So that's the sort of size of reach we're talking about. You look at him, and he fought Matt Bonner earlier on in his career. What do you make of someone like him, who in the stand-up looks like a real force to be reckoned with? But as you say, this is MMA we're talking about, and if you can get inside that range, how do you think he would fare if you got your hands on him?
Well, when I fight next week and you see my takedowns, you'll understand that I will put him on his back. The speed and the technique, everything about my wrestling. Honestly, I can't tell you how much I've come on. The last 12 months, I've concentrated on wrestling, attacking over and over again. And the pace I push is unstoppable. I will get him on his back and I will beat him up and stop him. I put my house on it. I put Penguez on his back. And I them nice big long arms, I'd take him off the shoulder.
Brilliant. And the other thing I was going to ask you about, obviously, you mentioned straight away when I talked to you about joining Octagon and what you liked about the promotion, the fact that they play to packed houses across Europe, right? So the Czech Republic, that they're filling 15, 16,000 seater arenas over there. In Germany, they're packed. I mean, you were there, 50, 60,000 football stadiums. So in terms of being in there, you're fighting a Czech fighter in the Czech Republic in what's going to be a pretty packed arena. And you talked about the fact that this guy's probably, you're going to drag him into deep water, gas him out. Do you think actually being the away fighter and not having all that crowd sort of with you and firing you on is actually a benefit for you? Because
Yeah, it is.
the adrenaline will be absolutely flowing through the guy as soon as the fight starts.
I love getting booed. I really enjoy getting booed. I love people cheering for the other fighter. Do you remember the Darren Stewart fight
In London,
in London? It was London, yeah, London
at the Indigo.
at the Indigo. Yeah, he was a big fan favorite, and I went in there and his head fell off. His head fell off. He didn't know what was going on. And that is performing in front of your crowd, and things don't go your way. And that's where I perform my best. I've got no emotion with that crowd whatsoever. There's nothing there. They're not even there to me. Laser focused, get in that cage and get the job done. Doesn't matter where I am. I could be on a field, in a back garden, or in a 60,000 seater stadium. I will be the same fighter and then get it done.
So in terms of this one, then we'll round off with a prediction. We know the way you're going to approach this, right? You've made it very clear how you plan on approaching this fight. How do you see your hand getting raised at the end of it? Is this going to be dragging him into deep waters and just dominating him for 3-4 rounds, or do you think you're going to get him out of there inside the time?
Fair downs, grounds and pounds. Referee's going to save his life. That's it. He's going to pull me off him, guarantee it. And I'll push and I'll make it happen. I keep attacking him. I keep dragging him down. I keep tiring him out, and he'll stop getting up eventually because he's too tired. And then I'll elbow his kite in. It'll be over.
And last one from me, and I really appreciate the time. It's really good to catch up with you. You've won titles before. You captured that Cage Warriors middleweight title, which is obviously a very prestigious title in its own right. What would it mean to you to win this tournament and potentially to win the middleweight title for Octagon MMA?
It would be a legacy. It'd be something amazing. I'll be able to show my students that I train that it's possible. It's possible. 38 years old, and I feel like I'm just hitting my prime. And I want to show them that you can do it. And then they can take over and they can lead the way, and I can coach them and show them the way. And like I said, I'm gonna put my name up there as one of the best.
Great stuff. Well, look, I really appreciate the time, mate. I hope the next week flies by and you get in there 100% and are able to execute the way you plan on fight night. And looking forward to seeing how it goes for you. All the best, mate.
Thank you very much for having me on.
There we go. The Height and Hammer, Mick Stanton, going for tournament glory in Octagon MMA's Tipsport Gamechanger middleweight tournament. Octagon 67 in Trinic, Czech Republic on February the 22nd, taking on Milos Petrasek in the first round of that tournament. Huge thank you to Mick for being a part of the show this week. Big thank you to Scott Lagden at Octagon MMA for hooking it all up for us. Don't forget, you can follow us all on the socials at RDX Sports across all social platforms for the RDX Sports brand. You can follow me at Simon Head Sport across all social platforms for all of my output. And don't forget, OKTAGONMMA.com for all the information you need ahead of OKTAGON 67 in the Czech Republic. Just 1 week away. It should be a great event, a Tipsport Gamechanger in full effect with one of the UK's own, the Height and Hammer, Mick Stanton, looking to progress to the second round. It should be a great night of fights. Thanks again to Mick for being on the show, and thanks again to you for checking it out. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, all that good stuff, and enjoy the fights this weekend. We'll speak to you next week.